everybody. I hope you're doing well. And this is going to be kind of a sit down chat video about how the end of the year went, what my summer plans are. I thought, after the craziness that is the last few weeks of school with exams and everything, it might be nice to just have some chill sit down chat time. So, and I hope the audio is good because I finally got a little microphone and hopefully it'll kind of help with the background noise, the tick taps of my dog's paws in the background, and just like cars and all that jazz. So hopefully the audio is good. But actually, let me just dance for a second because I finished my first year of teaching. It is so exciting. And if you're wondering, are you going to be teaching next year? Are you coming back for year two? I am. Not quite sure what exactly I'm going to be teaching yet. I know it's still going to be in high school. It's still the same school that I was at, but there may be a position opening up, and they may need someone to fill it. We'll see. We'll see. I'll do an update when I've got that information. I have a tentative schedule right now, but like I said, there might be an opening coming up. I might be switching. They might need some help with a few different subjects. So we'll see. Yeah, if you didn't know, those who are teaching like high school and maybe middle school, I'm not sure, you're not always exactly sure what class you're always going to teach. So new courses may open up that you have a background in, or there might be a new need. Your school might start a new program and they need some teachers for different classes. So that will be interesting to see what I'm going to be teaching. I'm really crossing my fingers that I get to teach both science and Spanish next year. That's my goal. And I love both of those. Again, for those of you that don't know, I majored in biological anthropology, have a background in science, and also I minored in Spanish and biology. So definitely my two loves, and would just love to spread that with my students. So let's kind of get into what went down these last 2 weeks of the school year, because it was wild, it was crazy, it was fast paced, and also yet it felt so incredibly slow. So I would say 2 weeks ago, we're finishing up final lessons. We are doing exam preps. We are trying to get students caught up on as much work as possible. I gave my students a deadline before the end of the semester to get all their work in so that they could be fully prepared for the finals. So I would have plenty of time to grade. And that's pretty standard from what I saw from my school. I actually told one of the teachers at my school what my last date to take makeup work and stuff was, and she's like,
Oh, you're being generous, you're being nice.
so I know that a lot of teachers do that just so they have plenty of time to grade and students have an idea of how hard they need to work for the final and these final projects and stuff like that. So a week and a half out from the end of school was when our exam started. So we actually started with second block exams. We went from like second block to fourth block to first to third. It was just the way that it would work out with EOCs and EOYs, which is end of course and end of year testing. You have to make sure it fits so you have enough people open for proctors and various things like that. So second block is actually my planning period. So the first day of end of year testing and of course testing, I was a proctor for a Math 2 exam. And it was honestly kind of stressful at first because EOCs are a pretty big deal. If you teach an EOC course, props to you, hands off, or hats off, hands off, hats off. And yeah, I know how that can be stressful, and you can kind of feel it in the air where these kids start testing. But so that was the most boring 2 to 3, maybe more hours of my life. When you're sitting in one of those tests, because I'm teaching in the same school district that I was actually in as a student, so it's kind of interesting to see like the similarities and differences. But oh my gosh, I would much rather take the test than be a proctor because you actually are doing something. I was in one of my colleagues' rooms, and I think that I know every single poster that is in her room like by heart by now. I think I could probably list the games and books that are on her bookshelves just because, like, what do you do for 2 to 3 hours? You just sit there, maybe walk around a little bit, stare at some kids, but then it's so boring. But yeah, it was boring. So that was the first 2 to 3 hours of that school day, and then I got some time to grade and get prepared for my own exams and everything. And then I started the next 3-ish days of school was my testing. So luckily, I only had to give like final exams in two of mine. And the third one, I had an EOY. It was a district test. It's called the STAMP test. And actually, I'm not sure what it stands for, but it's basically an adaptive test that assesses like where the student is in their language journey. So it starts out with like Novus low, Novus mid, Novus high, intermediate low, mid, and goes like that. So, but that's for Spanish 1, which is a required course for them to graduate and everything. So that always makes me really nervous. And there's 4 parts to the test. So 2 parts, the listening and the speaking part, are taken beforehand, like a month, a few weeks before the final exam. And that's like a separate grade. But so the final exam part of this test is the reading and the writing part. And it's just really nerve wracking. It's like you've been teaching these kids all semester and you've been seeing how far they've grown, and kind of what the struggle areas are, and you just really really hope that they take everything you've been learning all semester and do their best. And some will, some won't. That's really up to them, which is I think the most frustrating part. I didn't realize before I started teaching that that's kind of like the most frustrating part with this testing. It's like that your teaching is shining through, is coming through on these tests, and it's like at the end of the day, yes, what they're doing on that test is showing what you've taught them, is like, but then the other half is like just how good of a test taker are they? Do they care? Are they taking their time? And it's always stressful that like maybe how hard you've worked and how much you've given to your kids isn't actually going to be shown. And that really, really sucks. But overall, I'm pretty pleased. And here's the actual thing too, is that with the writing part of this test, that we send them out to basically like this company, or we send them out for them to grade it. So I don't even grade these tests. And they come back up to 5 business days later. So as I'm speaking right now, I've been off for 3 days technically on summer break, but I might have to go in. I will probably have to go in and update my grades because I still haven't gotten the test grades back yet. So like I'm on spring break, summer break, but it's still not even official yet. Like I still have things to do. And actually tomorrow I'm going to a training. So that's another thing, is like, what are my summer plans going to be? Well, I have a training tomorrow, which is like for first year teachers. I'm actually really excited about it because I'm interested in like what can I do to better help with classroom management? What can I do to be more organized? And hopefully this training is really going to go into some details and really good strategies for things like that. So summertime for teachers can be quite restful. On the other hand, it is also a time for reflection, and it's a time for new learning, new skills, the skills that you don't really have time to learn while you're in the midst of teaching 3+ classes, whatever. So I'm like really excited about that. And then I'm going to take some vacations, which will be very, very nice. I'm going to Florida for a week, but part of that trip, so 4 days are vacation-y days, and the other 3 are actually another training. So there's still going to be some teacher-related content over the next few months. So stay tuned for that. That's definitely another big part of my summer, is still getting organized, still preparing, mentally thinking, reflecting about what I'm going to do for next year. On top of that, Luckily, I have been saving part of my paycheck to cover, mortgage and food and all that jazz over the summer. So we only get paid once a month, but I have them on like a 9-10 month contract. So I get paid once each month for the months that I'm teaching. So like July and then August, I believe, are like unpaid. So you really have to budget, and hopefully you've been saving, putting that money aside. So maybe if you don't want to work or you want to go on a vacation or whatever. So I'm covered in the sense that like I will not lose my house or whatever over the summer, but I do still work over the summer. So before I was working as a teacher, I was working at a veterinary clinic and I was a kennel technician. And I basically, this is something I haven't really talked about either, but I can do a whole separate video on this. I was working on the weekends throughout the entire school year. So I basically had two jobs. And then when I added the YouTube, I guess, I don't know, this doesn't really feel like a job. I'm excited about this, but it is extremely time consuming. So I work every weekend, and I didn't work like 7 days a week, but like 6 days, sometimes 7 days a week I was working. So that made this year extremely, really busy. But I did have a good money flow coming in, and I will be working at the same place during this summer. And luckily, they've been really, really nice working with my schedule, and hopefully, it's mutually beneficial. They've been needing some people for the summer to work weekends and stuff like that, and I would still like to work the summer so I have some extra cash, and I just like it. I love working with animals, and again, there's so many video ideas that I have. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in like my college experience, because I did an internship where I worked in animal care, and there's a whole process of how I decided animal care wasn't necessarily the career route that I wanted to go, but it's so important to me, and animals are just my whole entire world basically, besides my teaching, family, friends. But they're a huge chunk of what I'm interested in, and I would like to incorporate more of that into my profession someday. And I would love to incorporate my love of animals with teaching, but to stay kind of connected to those roots and this other side of what I'm really passionate about. I did decide to keep that part-time job just because I wanted to, and I didn't want to feel like I was totally changing routes and leaving this one big part of what I'm passionate about, what I'm interested in. So that's kind of why I kept that, and why I'm going back this summer. I just, part of me just loves it and I can't let it go. But that's a whole separate conversation. So yeah, this is hopefully not been boring. Hopefully you've learned a little bit about me and it's been kind of interesting. Let me know in the comments kind of what you're interested in hearing about, like my interests wise or like teaching wise, stuff like that. I will be doing a separate Q&A kind of answering some questions that I've gotten, and hopefully we'll cover that a little bit. But if there is anything else you're interested in, just leave it in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, and I hope you really enjoyed it. Thank you so, so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. It really, really helps me out. And I'll see y'all later. Bye.